Hi everyone, and welcome back to Bushel Park Golf Club. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through some pre-season equipment checks, starting with grips. We're also going to look at some grooves in your wedges and loft and lie as well. So look at some of the things we're looking out for, especially when we're looking at grips and grooves, just to show you what we're looking to improve upon and why we're looking to change them or why we're looking to have a re-groove done. So starting with grips first of all. Now I've got two clubs here that have been brought in for a re-grip. One of them's very obvious as to why it needs a re-grip, and you'll be able to see the grip's actually wearing in the thumb placements on this. The other one is actually gone very shiny, so again another sign that we're looking to have these grips replaced. So with the shiny grips, it's just really oils that have come off the hand and it's started to wear the grip down over time. So the first thing we'd start with is we'd always wash this grip just to check to make sure that it's not just grease or dirt that's compounded and really compiled all of these little grooves that are in the grip and make it look or feel shiny or slippery. Once we've done that, if we've still got this very shiny complex or the actual cord at the top on this grip is still worn or still showing, then it is time for us to have this grip replaced. So with our shiny grip, we'd look to have that replaced every year really, for these a little bit harder grips. For the other grip I've got here, which is a double layered grip, it's basically got a cloth top wrapped around a rubber core. So on this grip here, we've actually got wear marks where the thumb placements have been for left and right hand. And it doesn't take too long to wear these grips out. So these would probably need to be placed every 8 months or so. We tend to find these appear on ladies' clubs. So ladies might get about a year out of these, but generally speaking, most grips only last around a year. If you do take care of them, you do clean them regularly, then you can get sometimes them to last 2 seasons, but not much longer than that. But we're going to start with taking this grip off. So I'm going to re-grip this 8-iron we've had handed in. So first and foremost, always cutting away from us. We're using a hook blade for this. If we're using a graphite or we've got a graphite shaft, we always want to cut away with a hook blade as opposed to a Stanley blade, because we don't want to cut into the graphite at all. So if we cut into the graphite, it can splinter and then we can actually destroy or ruin the shaft itself. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off all this excess tape. We're actually going to make sure we've got no tape left. We want to start from complete nothing or complete steel, because that way when we do put our layer on for our grip to be adhered to, we're not going to have any excess build up on here. Now the old grip has got 2 layers on and it's got one that's been wrapped round. We don't wrap tape round anymore, just because it leaves these gaps between it. If you do wrap it and you do get them nice and close, then yeah, you can still wrap a grip and get it completely covered. But if we leave these gaps between, that can be felt underneath the grip, certainly on the grips that we're replacing these with, which are a tall velvet. So when you put a grip over the top of this wrapped effect, if we've got gaps, you're going to feel it. If it doubles over, then again, you're going to feel that too. But make sure we're getting rid of all the grip tape, and then we can go ahead and apply our next layer. Okay, so now I've got all the grip tape off the shaft. I'll actually place this into our gripping station so we have a nice vertical line that we can line the club face up to. So I'm lining up that leading edge, making sure club head's nice and secure and we're not getting too much movement around. And that keeps the leading edge nice and square for when we put the grip on. We can make sure that we've got any alignments and things that are lined up in the correct way, or all the grip is nice and straight along the shaft. So once we've got grip in place, use double-sided grip tape, and we place it about 1/4 of an inch beyond the end of the grip, or beyond the end of the shaft, so that when we've got that excess, we can roll it round and plug the actual bore hole around the top of the butt of the club as well. So wrapping right the way around, and all I'm doing is I'm making sure we're not getting any overlays or any doubling up of the tape, because again, like I said, any ridges that are underneath this tape can be felt through the grip. Rolling the axis, so we pinch together and we twist just to close off, to stop any stones and things coming through the bottom of the grip down into the shaft. So we're putting on tall velvet grips here, so I'm just putting my finger over the hole, a little bit of grip solvent, which is like a water-based solvent for this grip tape, pinching the opposite end, and then we're rolling it along the tape just to lubricate it, lining the grip up first, and then we're slowly going to press all the way down. Now as we approach the end, we want to make sure that we're not pushing too hard, because any excess spirit will shoot out the end and through the hole that we've got on the bottom of the grip. Taking the second grip, just to double check that we haven't stretched too far. And now I'm going to make sure I line everything up along the top of this grip, this shaft. So on this grip particularly, it's got Golf Pride written along the top, and also the pattern going right the way down the grip as well. So I'm just lining all that up. Wipe off any excess, and we can remove it from the vise. Little tap down just to make sure we're right at the top of the grip, and final check, and our grip's ready to sit down about 45 minutes to an hour just to dry before we can get it back into play. Okay, so next we're coming into the workshop and we're going to look at the grooves themselves. So we have two wedges here. One I've prepped and's in the vise already, and we've already got taped at either end of the grooves. And all we're doing with the tape is we're just making sure we're not going to run it over past the edge of the grooves either side and actually scratch the chrome or whatever finish it is we've got on a particular wedge. So we're just marking down the side of both sides to stop the tool going too far past. So the way we check to see if a groove is past what is salvageable is really just using a thumbnail drill. So if I'm getting the bottom groove here on the wedge I've got in my hand, I can't feel where the groove is. So I'm running my finger along the top grooves. I can get a nice clicking sound through my fingernail, indicate that it's catching each of those runs. When I get to the bottom three grooves though, it feels very smooth and there's not an awful lot, if any, that I can actually get my fingernail into. So okay towards the edges, but the centre mark, which is where we're looking to strike it from, that bottom groove, there is really nothing that we can do to salvage that groove. So that wedge would need replacing rather than regrooving. If there was a small amount that we could actually get, so the same as we've got on the side of this wedge, that we can actually catch onto, then it would be possible to regroove it. So I've got a wedge in the vise now. We're going to use our regrooving tool, which has got two different types of groove cut into each of the cutting wheels. So we have one square groove and we also have a triangular groove as well. So with the wedge secured in the vise and also sitting on the workbench, I can confidently push against each of these grooves to recut any of the shaped or sharp grooves that we need for this wedge. So realistically we're only going to be looking at the bottom four grooves. We will do the fifth groove slightly as well, but we're going to work up from bottom upwards, and we're going to place a V groove in to the first corner and push straight across from one side to the other, and then back to the beginning and across again. And each time we're going through, we're going to see some excess material come out grooves. We're not going to rush this process, because the last thing I want to do is slip and cut across any of the tape that I've set out to protect the plug. As we're going up for the grooves, we can feel there's less resistance, there's less material actually blocking the grooves themselves, but sharpen these grooves, and again doing the thumbnail test, I can feel nice sharp edges as I'm running up and down. So this club is now ready to go back out into the golf course. So the final check we'd make is our loft and lies. So what we do with loft and lies, we're going to try and get the set to match the original spec, or if we have something we're looking to change with a player, we'll use loft and lies to make sure the club's interacting with the turf properly. Now there's two types of clubs. You've got cast clubs and forged clubs. Forged clubs need to be checked annually, because they will change as you're playing, especially if you play a lot, especially if the turf's quite hard. Also if you're hitting a lot of shots off of mats, that will also change the loft and lie as well. So it's worth having forged clubs checked on an annual basis. Cast clubs are far less likely to move around, but we can certainly do a loft and lie to check they're not moved, and also use the loft and lie to correct the spec to get it matching the player. So I've got a player's set here, so I've got their 6 and 7 iron. So I'm going to place the 7 iron into the vise, getting the grooves to match up so they're nice and level. And we use the light gauges to check what loft and lie is for this club. So loft wise we are 33 degrees, and lie wise we are 64 degrees. So that's currently about 1 degree upright, which is what we want for this 7 iron for the player. So I want to make sure that the 6-iron matches in. So for this set, we're going to have ½ degree angle change between 7 and 6. So for this one, we want 63.5 degrees. And loft-wise, we're going to be having 3 degrees less loft. So we're looking for about 30 degrees on the loft front. So we have, so this one's 64, and loft-wise is 30, but it's a little bit too upright. So using our bending bar, place down the neck of the club, and we're just going to softly bend, get this club back down to the correct line angle. So it's now 63.5. But before we move on to the next club, we're just going to recheck. So we're going to reapply it into the vise and recheck our readings. So 63.5 and 30 degrees of loft. So that's our loft and lie done for this 6 and 7 iron. We do that for the complete set of irons, wedges included, just to make sure that we've got the right increments between wedges, lofts and iron lofts, and also the lie angles are consistent right the way through the bag. Lie angle is a hugely important part of the golf club and how it interacts with the turf, and it can massively change how your ball flight's actually going to start, left, right or straight on target. So well worth getting these checked out, and like I said, if you've got forged clubs, well worth getting them done on an annual basis, and especially if you play a lot of golf, a lot of different golf courses, a lot of different turfs. But for now, thanks for watching, happy golfing, and we hope to see you all on the golf course really soon.